And hello, and welcome, my friends, to the next Create Better Content um video workshop. I like forgot what I was talking about. I have so much going on in my head these days, and my classes are getting fogged up. Okay, so let's get started here because this is going to be really fun. We're going to talk today about quarterly marketing. I don't know if a whole lot of you are doing anything more than an annual plan, but I had found that the moment that I switched from just focusing on my annual plan and trying to see how I can get through with my annual plan and moved into more of like a 90-day, with goals and things like that, I have been able to get so much more done. And so that's where this kind of stemmed from. I was actually moving myself into this place of getting ready for fourth quarter and all the things that I wanted to launch for first quarter in 2024. And so that's how this all came about here. And I realized, I wonder if others could use this information as I move through this. So what I want to talk about today are several things. I want to talk about a problem solving tool to help you when you are trying to get some ideas together with regards to pulling together a quarterly plan. I want to also talk about a little bit of the difference between what the annual plan does as well as the quarterly plan and why this quarterly plan is going to be so important. Because I think when I get through with that section, you're going to be like nodding your head and going, yes, 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 I should have been doing this, or why haven't I do this, or I'm going to start doing this now, and especially 2024. And then I want to get into how to build your quarterly marketing roadmap. And as always, I've got next steps to share. I've got my newest digital product called Path to Purchase, which is basically taking you through this process to use the customer journey on how to create your content around it. So I'll get into that more later as we move through this together. And as always, I like to introduce myself, especially for those of you who are watching on the replay who have not met me before. I have taught about over, even probably more than that, 125 social media workshops down at the National Entrepreneur Center in Orlando. So, and I have worked with hundreds and hundreds of small businesses. So I am not just this person who's just working with consultants or coaches. I have worked with people who have tangible products. I have worked with people who sell services. So I am completely on board to whoever you are and whatever it is you're doing. I actually own two businesses, which is one of the reasons why this quarterly planning is always so important for me, because I have my content marketing consulting work, which I've been doing for about 22 years. And then there's the Create Your Business program, which I started in 2018. For those of you who have not seen all of the Create Better Content workshops, I do have a YouTube channel called Create Your Business. And when you go to the channel, you can look for the playlist. And one of the playlists there is going to give you all of the workshop replays. So you could just go crazy and go through all of the workshops and see all the things that we've been doing for the last year. I guess it has been about a year since I started doing this. And next month's topic is going to be how to repurpose your content. I hear this question a lot about repurposing, and I want to go through the process of how to decide which content you should be repurposing, what's the best way to repurpose it. And I'm probably going to take you through a path about taking one piece of content and how you can turn this into several pieces of content. Because the whole point behind repurposing is that it saves us time and it helps us reach more people. So I love the idea of reaching more people and saving more time. So we're doing a whole workshop on that. So next month, keep an eye on your inbox for more details about that. So let's jump right into this. I want to talk about, of course, creativity, because I'm always talking about creativity, but why creativity is your best problem-solving tool. Some of you may have heard me talk about this before, and this will be a great reminder for you. And if you haven't heard me talk about this, this is going to be so new, so settle in, because it's going to be one of these game changers for you, total game changers for you. So I want to talk about something called creative problem solving, because most of us move from this place if they go into, I said here with some of my questions here, you go into the research version of autopilot. You're always looking and searching for answers and listening to one more person on YouTube telling you what you think you want to hear. And we go through this endless loop of trying to fix the problem just so that we can say that we fixed the problem. But there's this thing called creative problem solving. And if you're one of these people who happens to fall into this trap a lot, this is going to be one of the best tools that you can use, especially when it comes to your content. And quite honestly, you could probably even use this information to help you with your business in general, maybe even life. I don't even know. So this part of this process is focusing more on using your imagination, which is why we're tapping into our creativity with this. It's going to disrupt this. Well, everybody says to do it this way, so this is the way I'm supposed to do it. And what this will do is it gives you a fresh perspective on how to look for new opportunities. So let's get into this here. And when I want to get into this, and I want to start with this, I heard this expression the other day, and it just really stuck with me. There's a difference between feeling rooted and grounded and being stuck. I want to repeat that again, because that is a huge piece here. There's a difference between feeling rooted and grounded and being stuck. Because when you're rooted and grounded and you really feel, you know your why, you have taken ownership, you have taken possession of the path that you're moving forward. You are rooted and grounded in what you're doing, and you're not feeling stuck. So if you are finding yourself more in that place of feeling stuck, this process that I'm going to explain to you is going to help you move through this. And it's also going to help you as you start moving through this quarterly marketing roadmap that I want to share with you too. So I want you to follow this really simple framework. And so what this is going to do is it's going to help you uncover some ideas that it's going to hopefully stop you getting that endless autopilot research stuff that you find yourself doing over and over and over again and never really getting anywhere, which is because you're not rooted and grounded and you're just feeling stuck. So let's start here. The first thing you're going to do with the creative problem solving is start asking your problems as open-ended questions. And what I mean by that is it can't say a yes or a no question. It has to be an open-ended question that allows for multiple possibilities. When I'm talking about open-ended questions, I'm referring to when you start a question that says, why, what if, how could I, where else? So I could say something like, why am I not seeing growth in my Facebook business page? It's not a yes or no question. That requires you to say, I have to research it. I have to learn more about what's going on. You know, what if I decided instead of just doing static posts that I started doing live streaming? That's not a yes or no question. I couldn't just say, well, yes. No, what if? What would happen if? I could reach more people. I could create content that's going to stay on my business Facebook page. How could I translate what I've been doing on Facebook and start sharing it on LinkedIn? That becomes an open-ended question, because it's not like I can't just say yes. No, how could I? I could share those videos. I could share a poll that I did. I could share, so it gets you thinking outside of something that's just yes or no questions. So these open-ended questions are really, really good to go through. And where else have I seen this? Or where else could I do this? Looking at types of questions like that is going to take you down a much, much different path than just saying, should I stay on Facebook? Should I use LinkedIn? I mean, those are yes or no questions, but that's not going to give you the answers, because all it's going to do is keep you in that autopilot and keep you feeling stuck. The second thing you want to do with creative problem solving is suspend your judgment. Now, I might have just said something about Facebook live streaming. And for those of you who are not used to being with their face and their voice on screen, you're like, oh, no, that's not me. I can't do that kind of thing. And you'll just shut it down and you'll just turn me off. And you're like, no, 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 that's not me. don't make such a quick judgment about something because you haven't had time to really, really flesh this thing out. So your initial ideas come to you in raw form. They always do. And so a lot of times when the idea pops into your head, it needs time to grow and develop and what could be a huge game changer for your business and your content. So the second one of suspend your judgment is do not allow your fears and anxiety with that initial idea to make it immediately invalid. Ask yourself, why did this even pop up into my head? Is there a piece of this idea that I can turn into an opportunity for my marketing plan? I want you to catch yourself when you immediately look for ways to fault with your idea. I want to give you an example. I'm going to give you a personal example from me. I have a YouTube channel, and I have wanted to have this YouTube channel since like during COVID. I thought about doing this YouTube channel. One of the reasons that I wanted to do the YouTube channel is because the Create Your Business program is so unique. It's not just a content development marketing program. There's also the creativity. It's also things like this, understanding creative problem solving, looking at things differently that affect our body, that affect our brain. And so I realized one of the big things about sharing my information was I needed to talk. I needed to get this out and to share this because I could write and write and write all day, but I would probably lose people because I get a little scientific sometimes. I get that about myself, and I get a little bit further about, talking about prefrontal cortex and hypothalamus and all that stuff. And I start pointing to my brain and things like that, which doesn't help when you're just reading a blog post. So I really wanted to do this YouTube channel. And I'm going to be honest with you. And so this actually goes to the other one too, about, the idea and suspending my judgment. So when I first started thinking about that, I know this is going to sound so weird. I was having like a really, really hard time doing this with my face and sitting there. I mean, I've seen so many people just like talking heads, just sitting there talking and explaining and stuff like that. And I'm perfectly fine to do this on a workshop. But for some bizarre reason, just me without slides or whatever, I was having such a hard time with it. I was like, my gosh, your hair looks weird. You making really funny expressions, because it was just me. And maybe because there's slides here, it makes it easier not to look at me. I don't really know what it was, but I was having like this mental block with this. And so I kept pushing it off and pushing it off, but the idea stayed with me. And I didn't just say it's a bad idea because I could see more positives for it than I could see negatives for it. So I wanted to keep pushing it myself to do this. And so finally I was watching a series of videos from some other people that I follow, and I realized what they had done was they just downloaded a bunch of footage, like, beach scenes and sunrises and boats going by, and they were just talking just like I wanted to do, just like I was. And I had this light bulb moment, and I was like, bing, of course, that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to download some footage, and this lets me just talk and make my funny faces, and so I talk with my hands, and I don't have to worry what my hair looks like that day, and all that kind of stuff. And the minute that I made that decision, I started cranking out. I have been so consistent with my YouTube channel. At least once a week, I am doing a brand new video. And it wasn't until I had that moment of the light bulb that I could do it like this is what propelled me forward. But I never let go of the idea. Even though my initial thought was like, oh my God, I don't want to put myself on video, I never let go of the idea. And so I held on to it, and I took it in its raw form, the fact of me just talking and sharing something, and I moved it into something that made sense for me. I moved it into something that I knew that I just tried out this one idea, tried out this little bit, tried this thing out. And once I got going, I haven't stopped. I have been so consistent with my YouTube channel. I'm super impressed with myself, quite honestly. And so this is what I mean by suspend your judgment. It may not happen for you that very minute when you think about it, but don't let the thought that something is like, oh, that's not me. Oh, it's not, I don't want to be on video because I make faces and I do this and whatever. Because I do. I do it. I get that. I totally get that. But don't let that stop you, and keep pushing forward and thinking, because you will get to a place where it will make sense for you. And you'll be like me on my YouTube channel, where I'm just cranking this stuff out every single week. So this is a huge part of the creative problem solving skills. And I wanted to share that with you because I thought that was a really important piece that I personally have developed from it. Because remind yourself, this thought came to you for a reason. What's the message about what you should be doing? My thought came to me because I needed to talk. I needed to share this information. I needed to find a way where I could just have a topic that day and share it. And so sometimes I go a little long because I ramble a little bit. I get that about myself, but they're not, as long as the workshops are. So they're really kind of tiny trainings compared to the workshops. So think about that when you're moving through this whole process, especially when we get to the part about the quarterly roadmap. And the last piece of this is adding the words yes and. How many times have we caught ourselves wanting to say, well, this is good, but this is a great idea, but, well, yes and has its foundations in improv, where you are basically, no matter what happens, no matter what comes up in your internal conversation, you use the words yes and instead of but. Because when you bring the word but into the conversation, you're basically negating everything that came before it. I really, really like this idea, but, as opposed to, I really like this idea. I'm not sure how I can put myself on video. Yes, and if I keep thinking about this, I could figure out a way to make this work for me. You see the difference between that and but? And so your job is to keep saying yes and keep exploring the opportunities and paths to uncover this answer that you're looking for. Let me give you a couple of examples here. I've never done a content strategy. I don't even know where to start. Yes, and I can always talk to my friend to get her help. She's been in business for years and is probably full of suggestions. That is a great way to turn this around. What if none of my products sell? What if none of my services sell? What if I'm putting myself out there and nobody's listening to me? Yes, and I'll be okay. And I'll be proud of myself for even taking the risk and trying something new. So the idea is to add the words yes and, especially with our internal conversations that we have with ourselves, because I know I have these internal conversations all the time. So think of it from that perspective. So when we think about our creative problem solving skills, we want to make sure that we suspend our judgment, that we add the words yes and that we are also, adding all of these things into, whoops, I'm going through the wrong way. The open-ended questions, that was the word I was looking for. We're thinking about all those open-ended questions that we want to add to it. So all of these pieces and parts together is what they call creative problem solving. And when you can bring all of that together and you actually hear that, you listen to those sentences that I said. Yes, and I'll be okay. Yes, and I can always ask a friend of mine who has been in business for years and she can help me. Those are the things that are going to make you feel like you can keep moving forward and that you've got options and that you're challenging all of these assumptions and that you're going to move forward. Because that's our plan with this, with quarterly planning, especially because we're looking at a snapshot of the year and we want to make sure that what we're looking at is clear and we can keep moving forward and we're not going to get stuck in where we are and stuck in the butts. That came out wrong. That really came out wrong. I'm sorry, I just cracked myself up. Okay. This is what happens when you have a son. Sorry. Okay, let me get myself back on track. Okay. Look what my son has done to me. Okay. Let's talk about why you need a quarterly plan. Okay, let me get I keep hearing that in my head. Okay, stop. All right, Penny, stop. All right, okay. All right. All right, why do you need a quarterly plan? Okay. A quarterly plan is to make sure that the annual plan that you have in place, that you are not getting sidetracked and that it helps you to reach your marketing goals. It also helps with I call shiny object syndrome, Because if your goal is to develop this YouTube channel and then shiny object syndrome is TikTok, and someone's like, oh no, you should be on TikTok. You're like, oh wait, yes, TikTok. But TikTok's not going to help you move the needle like the YouTube channel is. Your quarterly plan is going to keep you on track for that. In your quarterly plan, all your tasks are treated the same, and there's no priorities between them because you know that this is what's leading to the goal that you need to. And if you don't have a quarterly plan, I can attest to this one. Burnout comes really, really fast because all of things, everything is important. Nothing can go through the cracks. And almost all the time, because you're hurrying through that, it leads to nothing. So not having a plan in place is not going to get you anywhere. And not having a quarterly plan in place makes it even worse. So if we look at quarterly planning versus annual planning is the overall strategy for the year, and it sets the path for your business. The annual planning is going to say, okay, these products are coming out at this time of year. This service gets launched. This is what we're doing this event. You know, maybe we're at a conference this point. Maybe we're doing this particular event every single year. Maybe we do a charity thing. And so all of those things get mapped out in the annual plan. And so we can work towards the launches. We can work towards, you know, a great big event. We can work towards whatever it is that your business is working on. And that gets laid out in the annual plan. But what I find interesting, and this is what has helped me over the years, is when I started, let me start that sentence over again. When I started getting to this place where I would look at these things within 90 days, I would take these goals and say, what can I get done in 90 days? It allowed me to be much more flexible. It allowed me to be able to create much actionable, really actionable stuff. And if we think about what's going on, you know, it's hard for us to decide in January what's going to happen and what's going to be extremely relevant by December. And one of the best examples that I can give you is, you know, when COVID hit. How many of us at the beginning of the year in January and February could have even imagined that by December that we would be in lockdown, that we would be wearing masks, that everything would be mostly on Zoom, and we would no longer be in person? You know, anytime, if your business is relying on going to conferences, that was out. So if you sat there and you tried to plan everything throughout the entire year, and then something like COVID hit, totally uprooted everything. So for us to sit there and say, what's going to happen that I know is going to happen in January by the time December rolls around is just, it's a fantasy. It's a fantasy thinking. I think that even large agencies fall under this trap too, where they start to have to look at quarterly roadmaps versus exactly what we're doing every single month, you know, month to month or whatever. So we look at it with shorter periods of action. And so it helps you stay reactive. No, actually, it helps you stay proactive. That's a better way that I could say it. It's proactive, because at the beginning of every quarter, we review what happened in the previous quarter. We look at our wins and our challenges and our opportunities. And that's what helps us build this roadmap that we're able to track and measure our success. And so when we think about quarterly planning, one of the things that I do is I go through this list, and I'm about to share with you some of the questions that I ask myself when I go through my quarterly planning. What focus areas or strategic initiatives am I going to prioritize? What needs to get done this quarter? How are the resources going to be allocated? And resources doesn't just mean money. Resources means our time. Resources means our focus. Resources means, do I need a program for this? Do I need to bring in a virtual assistant? What resources? So think of it from that perspective as you're moving into it, because there's nothing worse than showing up and trying to get something done and realizing you didn't have the right program, or you didn't have the time set aside for it. So you want to make sure that you've got that resources allocated for it. And what are specific measurable goals for each focus areas? Last month, we talked about SMART goals, and I don't need to get into all of that, but remember when I talked about SMART goals, they were specific, measurable, actions, realistic, and time bound. We always want to make sure that our goals are set up like this, and that will allow you to really see that you are moving forward, especially with your annual plan, and that we're moving the needle. We're moving forward. We're not going back. We're not collapsing here. We're moving forward. And if we're not, and if something needs tweaking, and if something needs some work on it, we're not 6 months out. We're not 12 months out. We're right there in the middle of it. So we're able to be more reactive, proactive when it comes to this. And so what specific activities am I going to do this quarter to reach these goals? I'm a real big fan of, I'm looking at my big wall over here. That's why I keep looking, of sticky notes. And I'm not just a sticky note person. I am like, I'm going to share with you guys something that I normally don't share, but I'm doing it anyway. I'm not just a sticky note person. I'm a sticky note. I don't know if you can see this sticky note person with lines. So I have sticky notes with lines on them all over my whiteboard. And these are like the monthly things. And these are like specific to each one. I break things down just like that because it helps me break things down about specific activities that I need to do to reach my goals. So however you do this, I'm not telling you need to put sticky notes on a whiteboard. That's just me. However you do it, if you do it digitally, if you've got an app or whatever you do, but making sure that we're tracking this stuff, because this isn't something that you're just doing a quarterly roadmap in your head. You should be doing it on a Google Doc. You should be doing it on, paper. You should be doing it on sticky notes, however you do it. Make sure that it's written out someplace and it's not just up here in your head. Because you're going to want to ask yourself, how will these growth initiatives get managed throughout the quarter? What am I going to be doing? What am I going to be focusing on? What am I going to be working towards? And that's going to keep you on track. And so when we think about this, we're not just abandoning our annual plan, because our annual plan, as I said here, answers the whys. Why are we in business? Why are we helping people? Who our customers are? But the quarterly gives the actions that will get us to the whys, that will get us to the goals. So that's pretty much what we're doing. And we think about the advantage of a quarterly plan. It helps us with productivity. It helps us with focus, and definitely database decisions, without a doubt. So let's talk about this, break down each one of them. Productivity. Productivity is great when it comes to quarterly, because now we're looking at a smaller period of time, a 90 period of time versus 12 months. So we have this flexibility that if we're going through this for a month, let's say we're working on building our LinkedIn strategy. And if we're looking through our analytics, and after about 2 months of our LinkedIn strategy, we're looking at our analytics, on the third month, we're able to take a look at this information and we can say, okay, it works really well when I do videos. It works really well when I create these posts that have polls in them. I can look at this information and I can see that I can make changes to my content that is very specific and very on track, on point to what's happening at this moment. Because again, 6 months ago, maybe something was not working with me on LinkedIn, but it is right now. So this is where we are. We're working right now. And so it gives us the flexibility to move forward. And so it allows us to be more productive, because now we know what we're working on. We know what we're doing. We have goals. We are able to, create this process, and it helps us work through this even faster. So that's why it allows us to have, great productivity when we do this. And the focus, definitely. I love when I do this focus stuff, because when I look at this, there's something different about a 90-day period versus 12 months. 12 months feels so overwhelming and so heavy. And especially when we're looking at January, we're in January, we're looking all the way to February, and we're looking all the way to December. And it's like, oh my gosh, how am I going to get there? But when I'm looking at January and February and March, I'm like, okay, I can manage that. That's 3 months. That's 90 days. I can, think about where my goals are, what I'm going to do. I don't have to get it all done, but what am I going to get done in this 90 days? And so the focus is so incredible that, again, I love a quarterly plan and data-based decisions. That was what I was talking about when I was giving you the example of the LinkedIn strategy. You could look through 12 months of metrics. I mean, like right now, so we're in September. If I was to look at metrics in January, that information is old. And I know it doesn't sound like it because it's just the beginning of this year, but things go so fast, especially now when we have so much technology. Think about how when we started the year and how much AI has influenced where we are right now. Most of you probably weren't even thinking going into 2023 that you would be using ChatGPT, or you would even be using AI for that matter for any of your content marketing. But now you are in September of 2023, completely different place than you were in January. So you don't want to make these decisions based on what happened, at the beginning of the year. You want to look at what's going on right now. So that 90-day snapshot is real-time data. It's real-time analytics. And this is going to be able to give you some really good, accurate information about what's going on with your progress. Are you staying on track with your goals? So you get a really good sense of what's happening at this time versus looking at older metrics. And so these database decisions become much more based in reality. So if we look at our SMART goals, specific, measurable, actions, realistic, and time bound, all of those things can help us take a look at where we are with this data that we're experiencing right now in this 90 days. So as I get on to the next piece, I do want to share with you about this new product that I've just launched called Path to Purchase. And basically what this is it helps you understand the customer journey process. For those of you who have been with me long enough, you've heard me talk about the customer journey, how it helps you understand the different data points and different touch points to move your customers from awareness to consideration into decision. So what I've done here is it's the Path to Purchase has a training video in it. And then you also get 3 targeted workbooks, and each workbook is for the awareness, one's for consideration, and one is for decision. And it's going to help you create some content so you can develop these touch points. You can develop these data points for your customers so that you can move them from awareness to consideration to actually purchasing things from you. So you can get it here at bit.ly/customerpath2purchase, 2 with a number, not the word. So path 2 with the number, purchase for $20. Okay, let's jump right back into it. And I always like to talk about a little creative thinking exercise because that's just who I am. And that's what I like to do because I always believe that our content marketing will benefit from having this opportunity for us to experience some time in our creative energy. And anytime I talk about creative energy, it's not about painting or writing the next great novel. You can do all kinds of different things, from taking a walk to sitting outside on your porch, to help you actively brainstorm your content ideas. So today's, for those of you who had purchased my book, you will probably recognize this. And one of the exercises that is currently in the I Just Did a Thing book that I wrote, it's called All the Money That You Need. And this creative exercise shows you how to spend some time in your imagination. It's about being deliberate in your daydreams. And I'm all about daydreams. I think that daydreams is one of the best ways that we could tap into our creative energy. But daydreaming is just kind of staring into space. So with this exercise, we're going to have a little bit more structure, but I'm still going to let you use that imagination. So when I talk about all the money that you need, it kind of stemmed, not kind of, it stemmed from that idea. And I'm sure you've all heard the story about the rocks in the jar, and it teaches you how to prioritize your time. And everybody's heard a different version. Some people say it's a teacher. Someone says it's a CEO. Someone said that they've heard this in a conference or something like that. It's always somebody doing something, but it's always the same story. So basically what happens is the speaker comes out with a large jar and fills it with big rocks and says, "Is it full yet?" And everyone says, "Yes, it looks full." And then he adds some small pebbles in there and he says, "Is it full yet?" And they say, "Oh, well, yes, it is full." And then he asks some sand and he puts some sand in and he says, "Is it full?" And he drives his point home and then he pours water into it. And so basically what he's talking about is that each one of those pieces, the rocks or the big stones are like our major projects. The pebbles are the little things. The sand becomes like our busy work, and the water, for me, the water is daydreaming. So what he always talks about is when you put the pebbles in first, or when you put the sand in first, like if you put the sand in first and then you tried to put the pebbles in, there's no way that you would have been able to put those big rocks in. It would not have worked. Even if you poured the water in, the rocks would not have fit. You had to put the big rocks in first, and then the pebbles, and then the sand, and then the water, because that's how you make everything fit. So basically the moral of the story is you should always be putting your big stones, your projects, into your calendar first, so you can always find time to work on them. Because if you don't, you're going to fill your day with the pebbles and the sand and spending time with your water daydreaming. So you want to make sure that you find time to work on these projects to accomplish in your life or your business, right? So with this idea, I wanted to suggest, so what if we use that last step? Instead of, looking at our rocks and our pebbles and our sand, and we put the water in, but the water became much more structured. Why can't I say that word? Much more has structure to it. I don't know why I can't say that word. So we can really find that we're filling our potential, but it also gives us this opportunity to kind of have a visual while we are working through this creative energy process. So if we find more ways to add water into our jar to dream about the changes that we want to make in our life, we want to think about all the money you need. And this is a really, really simple creative exercise. You just need a notebook with your favorite pen or a Google Doc on your computer, and you need a timer, either on your phone or your computer, and a quiet place for about 30 minutes. So I want you to think about the following statement when you're doing this. And you ask yourself, if you had all the money you needed, what would you do with your day? So I want you to set your timer for 15 minutes. And then during that time, I want you to think about, you can start writing or typing or whatever it is that you're doing to do this, and no judgment, because you only have 15 minutes. So whatever comes up with you, whatever it is that you're thinking, that's what has to come out. So I want you to think about it from this perspective. Imagine, what are you doing? Are there people there? Where are you located? What conversations are going on? What is happening? If you had all the money you needed, what would your day be like? And it can't just be, I'd sit around all day and watch Netflix and, whatever. Well, I guess it could be if that's what you wanted to do. But is that what you would do all day? Keep writing until you hit that full 15 minutes, because just writing, I'm going to sit and watch, Netflix all day and drink, sodas or whatever. That's not going to give your whole 15 minutes. You have to keep going. So there's got to be more than that. Are there other people there? Where are you located? What kind of conversations are going on? Think about that. So after that 15 minutes is done, set a timer for another 15 minutes. And it's amazing, because what's going to happen is when you force yourself, because we can all do this in like 5 minutes, but when I say 15 minutes, it doesn't sound like it's a lot of time. But when you are typing and coming up with ideas for 15 minutes, it is a long time. And so what ends up happening is your mind, you have tapped into that right side of your brain. You have tapped into this, and you are coming up with this creative stuff. And this creativity is coming up with, okay, I've got all this money. I've got money. I'm not concerned about anything. I always say, if money or time or skills didn't matter, what would you be doing? And then ideas start to come to you. You start getting ideas about something and this and that and the other thing. So I want you to take the next 15 minutes and I want you to start writing out those ideas. What came to you when you were typing up for those first 15 minutes? When you had all the money all the time. Nothing to worry about. There's no issues whatsoever. You can't say, I don't know how to do this. I don't have the degree. I don't have the skills. I don't have the worker. Yeah, you do. You got all the money you need. You can hire somebody. You can do this. So no excuses. You have to keep going and keep going and keep going. And so it's amazing when you tap into this creative energy, the insights and a plan kind of unfolds in your head about what you would do and how you would implement it. And what's really interesting about this is I want to go back to the creative problem solving that I talked about at the beginning of the workshop when I talked about suspend your judgment. Because what's going to happen is during this creative exercise, some things are going to pop up in your head. And they could be like me and my YouTube channel. It's going to come to you in a raw form. And it could be like, don't go, oh, that's not me. I could never do that. No. Suspend your judgment. Okay, that idea came to me. What if I worked on it? What if I moved this around? What if I thought about this? By the time you got done with that second 15 minutes, there's a really good chance that you have come up with an amazing content idea, an amazing idea for your business or something along those lines. It's a really great exercise. It only takes like 30 minutes of your time. I'd give it a try and see what comes up. I'd be curious to hear if anybody wants to email me and let me know how it all worked out. Again, I want to remind you about the path to purchase. Customer path 2 with the number 2 purchase. All right, let's jump into the steps to the quarterly planning right now. So when we talk about the quarterly planning, I think I have already shared with you more than enough reasons about why this is so important to do. And again, it's amazing to me that when I finally started doing this, I've been doing this quarterly thing probably like three or 4 years. Gosh, I don't remember how long it's been. It's been a while. But that moment when I switched from annual to quarterly, I was, oh my God, why have I not been doing this before? And the minute you do this, you're like, oh my God, why have I not been doing this before? Because it's going to take those annual goals and it's going to break it down. And it feels more like I can do this, manageable. That's the word I'm looking for, manageable. So when we think about this, I just want to keep this in mind, just a few things before I jump into the steps that I do. And I'm sharing with you about what you should be doing. Keep this in mind. You should always set goals. And I'm not talking about the number of people who are following you, but goals that you are looking at that actively grow your business. I mean, follower numbers and things like that are good because you can check your progress and it helps you to see what's working. But I want you to think about your goals. And I want you to think about goals that you can track. Something that can be measured, either Google Analytics, internal analytics on your social sites, the number of people who are signing up for your email form, the number of people who hit the landing page on the product that you're selling. Those are real data points that you can track. So your goals are really, really great, but you need to make sure that they have numbers that you can track them. And don't make your tracking system complicated. I review my analytics. As a matter of fact, one of the things that I did to make my life really easy is I actually created my own tracking worksheet. I'm a huge Pinterest person. So I immediately went to Pinterest and I was like, oh, let me see if I can find something and I could download somebody's PDF that they've created. I never could find anything that I wanted that was really good for me. So I just pulled up a Google Doc and I set it up a table, added a couple graphics because, that's just who I am. But I just set up a little table. It wasn't that fancy. And I just every month I print this thing out because I also do a monthly review and I just review my numbers. In that way, I've also got this on the sheet of paper so I can compare it to last month. I can compare it to last quarter and I can see what's working and what needs tweaking. I mean, it should be that easy. So when I'm talking about a tracking system, don't make this overcomplicated with, all these programs and this program has to talk to this program and this has to do, because what's going to happen is you're going to create something that's going to be so difficult for you to want to stay with that you're going to find excuses not to do it. The idea is not to give yourself an excuse to stop doing it. So you want to make sure that your tracking system is basically as easy as a Google Doc with a table on it. That's just what I've done. Or maybe it's an Excel spreadsheet, or if you're a spreadsheet person, You want to do something like that, because what's going to happen with this tracking system is it's going to help you pay attention to what you're monitoring. Why am I having such a hard time talking today? I don't know. Maybe that'll help. I doubt it, but we'll see. Okay, so don't just check those numbers and write them down in your tracking sheet and walk away. You need to look. You need to look and see what happened last month, what happened last quarter, and compare. Why did my email numbers go down? Why did my email numbers increase? You know, it's interesting because on my tracking form, like I'll have the name of the, either a social site or email or, whatever it is I'm doing. And then I'll put the numbers on there. But then the third column says what happened. And I'll always put little notes to myself. Paid ads on Instagram this month. I did, started doing stuff on Pinterest using Tailwind. I will always put little notes on this to make sure that I can go back, because I know that when I can check back on my notes, from first quarter, I'm not going to remember what happened first quarter. So my little notes help me know what's happening and where I am going. So as I'm moving through and everything kind of shifts and changes as the year goes on, I'm able to really monitor what's going on. So it really helps me to understand what's working. And I'm not just in autopilot. I'm not just going, okay, I'm always just going to post here. I'm always going to do here. Because if it's not working for me and my numbers are not increasing and I'm not reaching more people, what's the point in doing it? But if this is where I need to be and my numbers aren't reaching people, I need to figure out why. So that's what these numbers are here for. It's not to make you feel bad. It's not to make you feel like, oh my God, why aren't my followers as big as hers? That's not what this is about. It's comparing you to you. That's really what it's about. You're comparing you to you in your business. So you want to make sure that you are looking at everything and comparing it. And as the year goes on, if you are holding on to goals and you're holding on to things that no longer benefit your business, that are just weighing you down, you know that you need to start making changes. And I've said this in other sessions before, and I'm going to repeat it again. If you are finding that goals that you have are no longer on track for where your business is going and what you believe you should be doing, because it's very easy to switch from January to where we are in September. Things could be completely different for your business. I know they are for mine. Let it go. It's okay. It's okay to let that goal go. I am giving you permission right now. I am giving you the permission to let it go. Don't hold on to it. Just let it go and just keep moving forward. All right. So let's talk about this review. I broke it down into 4 steps, really simple steps. The first thing I want you to do is take a social media review. We are all on social media. There's no getting around it, but the platforms are different for all of us. Some of us might be on Facebook. Some of us might be on Instagram. Some might be on TikTok. Some might be on LinkedIn. Some of us could be on Twitter still, or X, or whatever it's called. Some of us could be on Pinterest. We're all on different sites, but we have data points. We have metrics that we can be looking at. So it's not just about looking at your followers. I mean, followers are good to know, but you want to also look at this information, and you can always find it within the analytics of each one of the platforms, where you can have information about post specific, the engagement, the reach, all of that kind of stuff. I tend to look at my analytics every month, and I will look and see what are my top ones, which is something that I thought was going to do really well. And it's like, oh, that didn't do really well. So I'm able to go back every single month. And so I'm getting real data at that moment to determine where I am and what's going on. And so I always go through all the social sites and write out follower numbers or information about posts or reach and engagement and that kind of stuff. And if you haven't done this before, now's a good time to start, because what you could do is you can always use these numbers right now as the baseline. And the baseline is, this is where I started. So maybe at the end of the year, I could do another check and see how much we've grown. And you can really see where you are connecting with your annual goals, as well as what you're doing with your quarterly goals. And so this social media review is not about It's the word, vanity numbers. That's the word I'm looking for. Vanity numbers for, I am looking for 1 million followers. That's a vanity number. I would much rather have 100 people who are qualified than 10,000 people and maybe 10 people who are qualified. So it's not about the numbers as much as it is about making sure that your community is engaging and you're reaching them. So that's what we're looking for, as opposed to just trying to see how many, followers we can get. I hate to burst your bubble about the follower thing, but it's true. Okay. So when I look at my numbers, especially for the quarter, I ask myself these questions. What felt good? What sites connected me to more customers? And this is interesting because as my year has moved on, I have found myself shifting from Instagram into Pinterest. I am now finding more and more people that I'm connecting with on Pinterest than I am on Instagram. So when I started to see that happening, it was probably by second quarter when I really noticed this. So when I hit third quarter, I moved my focus from Instagram over to Pinterest. And I didn't know this until I looked at my numbers. And that's why it's so important to have those metrics numbers in front of you. So I always ask myself, what feels good? Where am I moving towards? What is happening? Where am I getting more? And my increase with Pinterest has also increased my site traffic as well, and my email list. So those are really two big benefits that I found from moving my focus from Instagram over to Pinterest. But I did not know this information until I started looking at the metrics. So then I asked myself, what social space was time well spent, and what brought you the most website traffic? Obviously, I just answered that question, is Pinterest. So my best well spent has been most likely Pinterest, and I'm going to really up my game fourth quarter when it comes to Pinterest as well. So what was my biggest challenge? You ask yourself, what was your biggest challenge with your social sites? And it could have been anything from coming up with content, the time, making the time for it, which is a really important factor right there. Having the energy to do it. What is a challenge like that? And I don't want to, or maybe it could be something as basic as they changed the format of it. So I had to refigure out how to do Facebook ads, because Facebook ads were really successful for me. And then they went ahead and changed how to do the Facebook ads. So then it took me another month and I had to sign up for a class about how to do the Facebook ads. That's a challenge. So we talk about challenges. It's from that perspective. It could be mentally as well. It could be, I have a block right now with Facebook, which that's a whole other story. But think about what your biggest challenge was and how did you handle that challenge? So it's not just about what was the challenge. So if my challenge was the Facebook ads, how did I handle that challenge? What I ended up doing was I had to do research. I had to figure out how to, redo it again. And then I realized as I was doing my research, I found somebody who was doing, I'm just making up stuff here, a 10-day challenge, and I signed up for their 10-day challenge so I could figure out how to use the new Facebook ads. That's how I handled my challenges. So I think about it from that perspective. It's not just about what was the challenge, but what did I do and how did I handle it? You want to think through those things as well. So the next thing we want to do is we definitely want to set our quarterly goals. So we set our quarterly goals and we say, so what do you want to see happen with your marketing plans for the next month? The next quarter. And what I do is that is that moment when I will go to the annual planning and see where I am in my planning, and what is supposed to be happening, or what do I think wants to happen, and where am I with the process. So this is how I create my goals. So if I know that I'm here and I'm moving through this and I have this process that I'm going through, that I'm trying to get to sell something, to launch something, to grow an email list, or whatever the big goal was for the annuals, I see where I am and I think about what are the big things that I want to happen. I generally give myself like maybe 3 goals. I don't want to go more than that. You don't want to come up with like 10, 15 goals because it'll be very overwhelming and you most likely will not get those done. So you think to yourself that there's 3 big goals, 2 big goals. Maybe you have 1 big goal. You want to keep it contained and it's manageable. So ask yourself, what do you want to see happening in your marketing plans next quarter? And once you know that, what are the specific action steps that you are going to do to reach your goal? That's when my little list, sticky note list, is very helpful, because then I get to write these out and I can cross them off. I can check them. I can use, colored pens on them or something like that. That's one of the things that I end up doing is I'll create my little lists based upon what my goals are, because it's great to have goals, but it's even better when we have a plan to get them done. And not just a plan, but these specific action steps are super important like that. So when I'm talking about action steps, I'm going to give you an example here. Just some ideas to get you started. Again, I'm just throwing stuff out here. You could create a weekly posting schedule to make sure that you're being consistent. Another thing is maybe you want to organize a monthly event where you can meet people off of Facebook for free coaching workshops, like what I'm doing right now. Let's say you do want to start streaming something. You do want to have your face and your voice and everything on there. So I'm going to start doing Facebook Live learning sessions so I can keep checking in with my community to connect with them personally. Another thing you could do is I could put up a question or a poll, on my LinkedIn page to see what's going on. Where do they need help? So I could actually ask them. If I can figure out what it is their challenges are, what are they struggling with, I can use that information to create content. I could use that information to help me with my messaging. I could use that information to determine whether something on my products needs tweaking, because maybe their answers are different from what I believe that they need to be doing. So those are really great actions that are going to lead to growth initiatives. A fifth thing is create 3 new Pinterest pins that are linked to my email opt-in page, which is something I have been definitely doing, which is why my email list is growing on Pinterest. I have been very much been consumed with Pinterest these days. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. So the fourth step that we do with our quarterly planning is we measure our progress. What real numbers can you use to see if your marketing plans are working? So remember, we're planning for the next quarter. We've already looked at those. So we can look at, see what happened from the last quarter. A lot of the numbers that you're going to use are probably the same that you're going to do. But if it's something new that you're doing, if you haven't done polls, if you haven't done Facebook Lives before, if you haven't done a free workshop, and this is all new to you, what do I need to be monitoring? So if I am doing a Facebook Live, numbers that I could start studying are my views. I could see, I don't know much about Facebook Live, but I'm just going to make the assumption. I know on LinkedIn, when you do videos, there is like a completion rate, and people who are viewing it, meaning that they saw it all the way to the end, versus, or is it just, no, that's YouTube. Sorry, that's YouTube. YouTube will show us a completion rate, how many saw it from the very, very end, who just saw the very, very beginning of it, a couple of minutes of it. So those are 2 different numbers that I want to look at. I want to make sure people go all the way to the end of my videos, versus somebody who just, maybe the view happened because they were scrolling and it turned on and that triggered a view. I don't know, but we want to see that those are numbers. So we want to think about real numbers, because we want to make sure that we are measuring our progress. Again, it's not just about creating this list. We're not just creating a list of action ideas and action steps that we want to take. These action steps need to be measured. So we always want to make sure they're SMART goals. We want to make sure that things are measurable. And when I talk about that, I'm talking like data speaks louder than words. I love that line. I don't know where I found that, but I was like, yes, that is so right. Because basically this data information is showing you we can learn from our efforts. We can identify potential reasons something underperformed. We can take a look at that, and we can start to make adjustments to improve the performance of what's going on. And so these numbers are going to give us a guide, and they're going to give us the path, so that we're not just doing the same thing over and over again and wondering why at the end of the year, why am I in the same place that I started from at the beginning of the year? The point of the measuring our progress is to progress. It's to keep moving. So that's why we want to have this data. That's why we need something that's going to be measured. So I want to get specific here about things and not just metrics. I want to talk a little bit more about what else you could be measuring. We can determine your progress. So let's talk about, I broke it down into a few other things. Website. Do you need to make any changes? When's the last time you looked at your website copy? Is your value proposition, I do this to help people do this. Is that really clear and is it understandable? Is that on your home page? Are your landing pages clean and clear? Do you need to change copy? Do you need to add a video to it? Have you checked your landing pages on your offer, but you're getting a lot of, you're getting a lot of people clicking there, but you're not converting? Could be the copy. It could be the video that's on there. So take a look at your website, look at those measured numbers, the metrics, but think to yourself, do I need to make any changes? Seriously, when's the last time you looked at your stuff? A lot of people just create their websites and just put it up there and they don't look at it again. You need to check in. So it's an important piece of your marketing. I think it's one of the most important pieces, quite honestly, of our marketing. Your email opt-in. For those of you, especially if you are trying to grow your email list, are they downloading it? Are they staying with the email opt-in sequence? I've got ConvertKit. And one of the greatest things about ConvertKit are the reports. ConvertKit does these reports where I can actually see how many people not just downloaded, but I can see if they opted out of one of the email sequences, if they clicked on links in the email sequences, did they stay through it? So I'm able to tell where people dump out. I'm able to tell if people stay down through the end. I'm able to tell if how many people just hit that button and then just unsubscribed immediately. So I've got this amazing information. So take a look at your email opt-in too. That's a great way that you can start measuring your progress. You can look at your email sequence. Does it need to be updated? I have gone through my email sequences and updated them and added some new resources to it. As a matter of fact, I'm in the process of creating a whole new email opt-in. So think about other things that you've done. Maybe they've got some sequences that you can repurpose to re-engage with the customers. So your email opt-in is another place for you to take a look at about things that you're going to want to change up with to make sure that they are in alignment with your quarterly goals. And SEO, search engine optimization, that's a big thing right now, especially with regards to our websites, especially with regards to our social media, thinking about the keywords. Have you done any keyword searches? If you've done a keyword search, when's the last time you did it? There could be new keyword searches. There could be new phrases. There could be things that people are using right now that you are not utilizing. So you want to make sure that your keywords are the ones that your ideal customer is using. And are you using these with your social media hashtags? Are these keywords connecting you to people? Are the keywords being used on your website? That's one of the things that I have done for clients before. Is I have a couple of clients that what they paid me to do was to SEO keyword optimize the copy on their website. I basically went page by page by page and made sure that there was keywords that were optimized on their website that they were not using. So take a look at your website like that. Is that something that needs to get updated? That could be part of something that you're doing with your quarterly planning. And of course, I always go back to content marketing when it comes to your progress. If you haven't ever conducted a content marketing audit, your quarterly goal could be creating a content marketing audit. You want to take a look at what's working, what's not working. And a lot of this is always going to come down to those metrics, but you can also tell by the engagement, is this something that people are engaging in? Did they share it? Did they interact with the post? Did they, I don't just mean the like buttons or the love buttons or whatever it is that everybody's got on there, but the actual posting up of a blog post and somebody actually reading the blog post. Those kinds of things, really getting down to the part that people are interacting with it. And if they're not interacting with, if it's not working, what's going on here? Is there missing pieces in your content funnel? Let's talk about the customer journey. Did you just start out at consideration, just assuming that everybody knew what their problem was, and you, or even worse, you didn't even go from awareness to consideration. You just went straight for the sale, and you just said, hey, buy from me. And I'm thinking, I don't know who you are and how you're going to solve my problem. You've missed out on the awareness. You've missed out on consideration, and you went straight for decision. So we want to make sure that, are there any missing pieces in that content funnel? Get your pathway to purchase, their path to purchase. Just want to throw that in there. But the social media platform is, are you on the social media platforms where your customers prefer, where they're hanging out? You know, I always like to say this when I work with clients, and they'll say to me, you know, I'm on this place. I don't understand why my customers aren't. And I'll ask them who their customer is. And their customers are, you know, maybe they're hanging out on TikTok, and I'm all on Facebook. And I'm like, I don't understand why I'm not finding anybody, because you're in the wrong place. Just because you hang out there doesn't mean that's where your customers are, unless you are very representative of your customers, that it would make sense. But you want to make sure that you are using the social media platforms where your customers are hanging out. So that's something else that you want to be able to track right there. So when we wrap all this up together, those 4 steps right there that I shared with you, it gives you a framework to help you build these quarterly plans about where to focus your time and your energy. And it's really, really important, as I shared right here, you know, especially for us in small businesses, prioritizing is the key, because we can't do everything, especially if I'm a one-woman show. I only have so much time in the day, and there's only one of me. So I can only do so much. So you really want to make sure with your quarterly plans that everything that you are working on, that you are working towards, is getting you to your goals, your annual goals that you are trying to achieve. But the quarterly gives you those small bursts that are manageable and will allow you to actually see some success. So once you think about this, as you're moving through this, especially as we're moving into this, I'm moving into 4th quarter. And then you can also use this process helping you move into 2024. It's going to help you think about your goal for the year and where you want to go and what you're trying to do, and your overall plan of action to move your business into growth versus feeling stuck. Because the goal is here is to feel grounded and rooted, and not to feel stuck. So as always, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate all of you so much for your time and your attention, and joining me on all of these content workshops. Again, if you'd like to learn more about them on YouTube, Create Your Business, just go to that YouTube, and you're going to see a playlist there where you're going to find all the workshops there. My website at createyourbiz.net. And of course, if you want to develop your own customer journey map, there is customer path 2, number 2, to purchase. And I'd love to see you join in on that and see how that works out for you. So thank you as always for joining me. I can't wait to learn more about you and your business. And thank you again. And I will see you on the next Create Better Content workshop. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.